Yo, how's it going, guys? And welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys the most efficient or slash the best kind of farming routes for Enzo and Vault farming, essentially. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Now, before we get into the actual routes, I'm going to show you guys how you guys can actually farm the keys effectively. So the keys in question are going to be stuff like your code breakers, your precision and your ultra precision code breakers. There's two ways that are quite effective in farming these, so let's quickly show those off. So for the first vault farm, you're going to want to come over to Sterile land. Obviously make sure you're on hard difficulty. You're going to come over to Rockfall, take the TP here, and this is the mission we'll be running. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this mission and visited times on YouTube, so there's nothing new, but I'm just going to quickly go through one quick run to kind of show you guys how quick it is. It takes about 30 seconds on average. I'm obviously running solo, so it takes me about 30 seconds. If you guys have stronger bunny builds or you're running in a squad, you could probably get this done even slightly faster. And the more you run it, you kind of just know the spawns and where everything spawns, so you guys cool be able to basically spawn trap these enemies quite effectively. And so that took what, 30 seconds maybe. 34 seconds, 37k gold, 900 kaipa, so it's about 4 million an hour gold, just a bit north of that, depending on how fast you react to it and stuff. But I would say about every 3 to 4 runs you get one vault key here. Let's move on to the next farm. So for the next farm, we're of course here at Echo Swamp at the abandoned zone. You can take the TP up here, and this is the mission we'll be running. This mission is completely nothing new. You guys have seen this mission, posted 1,000 times throughout YouTube. But this is again probably the better way to get these, just because there's a lot more at density up here. So I would say you see them a lot more common down here. And also this is, from my understanding, the best gold and Kuiper farm in the game currently, probably averaging around I would say about 7-ish million if you're competent and running quite quick with the team. I obviously at solo hit nowhere near these rates, but I probably could if I actually focused up and did it properly. But again, so that takes about 40 seconds to do. I think on average you could get this done about 30 seconds as well. And again, you will see one done here you'll see one vault key here about every 3 to 4 runs on average. Now, before we actually get into the farming routes, just one thing I'd like to show, and this isn't a necessity by any means, but it's more of a quality of life improvement. And that's going to be having a good memory. Now, in the memory, the only thing you actually need is having that search radius increase modifier. I unfortunately only have a blue one at 50%, but it still provides great benefit. And the higher you can get that modifier, obviously the better your experience is going to be. So just to show you guys and put it into effect of how important this actually is, let's just say, for example, I'm standing right here and I hit the search. You guys can, if you guys listen out, if I just be quiet for a second, you will hear it. There you go. So you can hear the ding. So that actually indicates there's a vault in that direction. However, if I go ahead now and take this off, as you can see, I'm not wearing it, and if I hit the ping, you guys don't hear it. So that should showcase how important this actually is. I just get rid of these guys quickly and put it back on. Okay, whatever. Well, that does showcase how important that is, so I would highly recommend everyone go farm one up. Unfortunately, this week you can't actually farm, or you can't actually target farm memories, but from next week you can. And it just so happens from next week you can target farm them in sterile lands, and the best way I would go to farm them would be to do the XP gold, vault key farm that I showed up at the start of the video. Just run this mission over and over again and you will get hundreds of memories, and one of them will provide hopefully with a good modifier buff there. So for the White Knight Gulch, the vaults actually here drop the cooling metallic foil, and there are a lot of spawns here, but I'm just going to show you the ones that I would consider running through. Now what I like to do is come over to the Moongrave Basin and use these 3 TP points as a way to run around the map. And then once I don't find anything here, usually in other maps I would go TP elsewhere and then run around. However, I quite like to stick to this area, so I would just leave and come out, or you know, TP away there, or just walk through here or something and come back in. But so for the Moongrave Basin, you want to come to the main spawn here, and the spawn right outside to your right typically, so it's usually just off this part. I don't think we have the spawn, but I'll show you guys where the vault spawns. So just past these rocks, and it spawns just on this rock here. So it's usually, if my memory serves me correct, it's just here somewhere. The next place I would look at is it actually spawns just outside on the cliff side up here. It doesn't look like we have the spawn up there. That's fine. And if you can't see the spawn from usually, you know, where we spawn in, what I do is then TP up to here. I know it's just there, but I like to TP up here, and then there's usually a spawn inside the waterfall up here. I don't think there is, but what I would do is I would TP in and show you guys where the spawn is. So the spawn is usually right here, and that's where our vault spawns. And once this place is checked, I'd come over here. So you come through here, and then it should be at the end of this cave. So those are the couple spots on this map. And then once you've, you know, looked through them, you know, you can just TP out and then TP back in. What I normally do is if you TP up here, there's usually a spawn right up here. So if we just use this for an example. Okay, now that we've TP'd in here, you can always check for the spawn up there. And if there isn't, there's a rock right behind. So if we check this, it's not in that direction, but we did hear the sound, so it might be up on the rocks here. And if I can just grapple up there. And it's usually just here. Oh, there we go, right here. So it is worth checking these 2 quick spots, so just over the map here, over the cliff here, and just these rocks here. I wouldn't waste my time running around through all of these and going through the other spots. I would just check these 2, and for the sake of, you know, changing the locations for the votes, and then I would TP straight back here and get back to checking your regular spots. So that was White Knight Gulch. Let's move on to Vespers. Now Vespers vaults actually drop their conductive metallic foil. And the way to best farm these is once you've spawned into Vespers, I usually stick to the ruins and I stick to Timberfall. I don't usually venture into these 2 areas for the sake of vaults. The ruins has quite, you know, they're all quite close. It's quite a small map, so they're quite good. There's usually one that spawns up there, so let's check. There isn't. If there isn't, I usually run down, and there's 3 spawns down here, and there's actually 2 spawns up there. So if we check down here, there isn't, but I'll show you guys where the spawn is actually. There's normally a spawn here, just here, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's a spawn up there. And then there's also a spawn back here, just around these rocks. I think it's usually like here, and then there's also one up here, usually. So there's none up here, so let's go to the top part of the map and check up there. So it looks like there was one up here. For some reason my scan didn't pick it up. Maybe I was just out of range of it. Hence why I guess, you know, it would be good to have these radius increase modifiers on. So the one that spawns up here is actually just behind this wall. There it is. So there's usually a spawn up here, and there's a spawn, I think it's this one or this one they usually spawn up, but you can check those as soon as you spawn into the map. And then the final couple spawns are actually up here. So there's usually a spawn at the top of this castle up here. So there's usually, not usually, but there is one up here. And then I think the other one, if I'm not mistaken, is usually up here. It usually sits up here somewhere. And yeah, those are the, I think I did hear a thing, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just hearing things, but that's where I would check votes for the ruins. And then once you've scouted this area out, I would come over to this side. So I usually don't hit this TP, I hit this TP because there's a spawn on the edges up here. And then there's actually always, oh, from what I tend to, there's always a spawn in the waterfall up here or at the edge up here. So let's TP up here and check. So once you guys have TP'd in here, I'll step a bit forward and then I would scan this entire area. Usually it's a lost cause just because of how big it is and stuff. But then I would run across the edge here, and you can always scan, once you get to about this point here, you can hit right and scan the waterfall across the other side of the wall. So you can hear it on the other side of the waterfall, so it's right here. I would keep scanning across the left in case you hear one. There's a spawn for the vaults right here between these trees. I think it sits right here. There's one there. And then once you come through this part up here, another spawn for the vaults. It's just on this edge here. So they spawn, I think, like just in this general location. And then the one that we found, obviously, is going to be just through that waterfall. So I jump through here. It should be, yeah. Yep, so that was the one we heard from the other side. But those are the two locations that I would run through and the kind of the routes I would take to get to these two places, and then check up here, down here, and then up here. Now, Agna Desert drops mixed energy residue. And the place you want to farm them, is going to be Mirage Stone. And I usually use Vermillion Waste and I TP across here and check. There's actually a spawn up here and a spawn up here. I usually just run a bit forward, scan it, and that's not my primary location. My primary location would be Mirage Stone to farm these vaults. So you're going to take this spawn up here. There's actually 3 spawns right behind us, so you want to turn around and scan. Don't think we have one here, but I will show you where the spawns are. So there's a vault spawn right here. There's a vault spawn, I think it's here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's here. There's one up there, and then there's one in the cave through here, and it usually just sits in the cave here. If there's none in there, what I would do is grapple up, and the other location that you would find one in is just on the edge here. So that one is dinging for us, so we can hear it. And I'm not going to go and open it, but I'll show you guys where it is. You can see it, there it is. It's just here. And the 4th location that I would check would be actually on the other side of this cube. So if we just run through this parkour bit quickly. Now once you get to this part, instead of running all the way around, there is a quick little cheese. You can do this on any grapple from what I understand, but obviously you have to jump a bit further. On the long distance you can just do like a regular jump. On the regular grapple you have to do like a double jump. Then you aim right here where I aimed, and it will TP you onto the top of the box or the cube, or you know, this stone floating thing. You jump up through here, and there is another vault here, so this is great to show. You drop down this hole, and boom, that's the vault location here. Once you've obviously checked all the spots and you've gotten all the vaults, what I would do is come over to this TPs up here. Once you've come up here, there's usually a vault spawn just on the edge here. And if there isn't, you can actually go forward a bit and check. But I actually just hit a scan up. So there was one up here actually. And it should be just be to the right of these rocks. Okay, so it's the one that I would have scanned from the other side. But so this one, so if you actually take the port TP up here, I usually, you know, kind of have line of sight of it, so I can kind of see it better. But that's the one spawn that I usually scan for, and once I've scanned for it, I usually come straight back here and do the main farm that I showed you guys here. So the vaults in Sterile lands actually drop negative iron particles, and the place I would come to farm them is going to be the first area you load into, classified area. And the location that I would actually go to farm them is, there is usually a spawn up to your left, up through these caves up here, but where I would actually go is actually down here. So if you jump across here, now there's a spawn down here, usually up. So there is one up down here. Then there's a spawn up here around this little pillar, and we've got one there. Then there's a spawn where these boxes are. And then there's a spawn, we've got one here, and then there's a spawn at the end, right there. I don't know if it's in my render distance here, but sometimes it spawns in up here. Oh, it's up here, sorry. And that's a spawn. Now, weirdly enough, for some reason, as I've always understood it, is that there's 2 vaults per map every time you load in. But for some reason in Sterile lands, when you're in this area, every single one always has a zone. And if you actually use up all 4 and give it a minute, I've seen them respawn back in. So you don't even need to TP away. If you just work your way through all 4, by the time you complete this 4th one, the first one will have spawned back in, and then you just work your way down. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe I've misunderstood something and I'm, you know, making a fool of myself here, but Sterile land seems to be the best way to, if you have a lot of these keys, you guys can farm, you know, Kuiper insanely fast here. So yeah, that's the Sterile land is the best place to farm Kuiper if you have a, you know, an abundance of these vault keys, and that's where I would go farm negative iron particles if that's what you need. Okay, so the Fortress Vaults actually drop pure energy residue, and the place I like to farm them is going to be Fallen Arc and the Converter Facility. I usually stick to the Fallen Arc as my primary, and then I run into Convert Facility while I'm, you know, switching and reloading in the vaults. But there's actually quite a good set amount of spawns that are quite close together here. But let's start off at the secondary spawn zone at Fallen Arc, and once you spawn in, there's one you can hear the ding of straight away. So once you come around here, jump down, you can hear one in the vault if there is one. There is one up here, so let's go and check, sorry. So it's just in the cave here, and we've got an ultra precision vault here. The next place I like to check is just past these cranes, and there's actually a spawn right there, or on the other side of the corner. Once you've checked those 2 spaces, I guess you can't go through here. There is a spawn here sometimes. Yep, there's a spawn here. And then there's also a spawn at the end of this pathway, just behind that box. So let's quickly go show you guys exactly where it spawns. So there's usually a spawn right here. And once you check all these 4 spots, I will then TP to the main spawn up here. Okay, and now that we are at the Convert Facility, I would run out, and there's a couple spawns that are quite close together that I would always check. So if you come out of the spawn, let's see if there's one up here. I think there is. So once you turn around, there's actually an entrance way up here. There's typically a spawn right here somewhere. And then I'm going to show you guys exactly where that ding is. So if you come around and go up the staircase here, there's usually one just outside the door. Yep. And then there's sometimes one just here as well. I don't think it can spawn up there. I think it always spawns down here. And then those are the 3 spawns in this front little section. You can go and take the secondary zone, and there's usually a spawn up here, I believe. But I usually would then just TP back here and check the cave, check behind the crane, under the little cliff, and then where the boxes are. I wouldn't waste my time searching this entire area. I would just come out, check these 2 buildings that I've just shown off, and then TP back and forth. Now, the Hagios vaults actually drop highly concentrated energy residue. If I'm being honest, this is probably the area I'm least familiar with the vaults, just because I've never actually had to farm that resource too much. But the 2 spawns that I like to use is going to be Dune base and forward base. So if you take the regular spawn up here, and there is a cave to our right, which we should be able to scan from here, and there is one up there. So if we jump up here, it's usually, yep, right here. And then I then take this TP, and then there's actually a little like hidey hole sort of thing just past this outpost, and there's sometimes a vault in there. So if I quickly showcase that off, so there's usually a vault in here, and it usually spawns like here-ish somewhere. But those are the 2 spots that I usually check for on Hagios, and then I usually come up to forward base to take this TP. So once you guys are here in forward base, I usually, if you guys can probably hit a scan from here and check. I don't think they are there, but I'll show off the 2 spawns anyways. If you guys come up here to the top of this building, there's sometimes a spawn up here. And then if I wait for my grapple, there's usually a spawn right here. So those are the 2 places I would check here, and then the 2 places I would check in Dune base, and then just keep TPing back and forth. And they're both quite close to spawn, so you can quickly get to them. I wouldn't bother too much with the other 3 areas unless I have missed like a very easy farm that I'm not aware of. Please let me know in the comments down below. But with Hagios, like I said, I'm not too familiar, but this is where I go and check for the 2 locations for the vaults. So for Echo Swamp, the vaults here drop thermal metallic foil, and the 2 places I like to check are Muskeg Swamp and Mystery Woods. I'm not too familiar with Mystery Woods, but there's usually one quite close to spawn, and there's one right here. I always forget where this one is roughly, but it's just past one of these trees. Yep, so it's right here. And then there's usually one on the tree line somewhere at the back here. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's this tree, but it's one of these trees on the back side that there's usually one. And if you don't find it, I wouldn't stick around here for too long. I would usually TP straight to Muskeg Swamp, and once you've arrived in Muskeg Swamp, I would check your left immediately. I don't think we have one here, but I'll show where the vault usually spawns. It's usually right here, I believe, or it's down here. I think it's up here. And then the other 2 spots that I will show are the 2 caves. So there's a cave up here, and then once you run through, there's a cave just down below. So if you come up through this cave, it's not really much of a cave then, just like a little tunnel, but there's usually a spawn, yep, right here. And then if you run through this tunnel and go straight through to this tunnel, there's usually a spawn at the end of this tunnel as well. And yes, there is. There is sometimes a spawn at the top of the structure around the edges, I believe, on the other side. But once you've checked those 3 spots, sorry, I would then TP back to Mystery Woods, check for the spawn along the woods here, along this side. And then you can have a run up to this side, because I think there is one spawn on the edge line here. And then I would just TP back to Muskeg Swamp. Well, those are all the farming routes that I'd like to show off. Disclaimer, they are probably not the most best in terms of RNG, as obviously the vaults don't guaranteed spawn in those locations, and there probably are maps that have more locations, meaning you're gonna find more than just the 1 or the 2. However, the ones I've chosen are quite close to spawn, and that's why I chose them, because you can just go in, hit the quick scan. If they're not there, back out straight into the next map. There probably are a couple places where I've not done that purely for the sake of it's quite close to the next spawn down the line. But yeah, I hope, you know, these routes actually help some of you guys out and, you know, help you guys in getting those resources quicker. If you guys did enjoy the video, please do leave a like and comment down below any criticisms or anything that you guys enjoyed about it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you.